Have you ever noticed that kindness sometimes turns against you? You try to be understanding, patient, supportive, do everything you can to be a good person. You go out of your way to help, sacrifice yourself, believe in the best in people. But in return you get ingratitude, indifference, and sometimes, betrayal, coldness, humiliation, or even ridicule. And at some point you ask yourself, is it worth it? Why is the world so unfair to those who try to be a light? Today I want to tell you about the thoughts of Carl Jung, a Swiss psychologist who deeply understood human nature. He did not give superficial advice. He looked into the very darkness of the soul without looking away. And he said what most of us are afraid to admit, that in order to truly be kind, we must first get to know our own shadow. That part of ourselves that we hide. It is the one that is the key to personal strength, dignity, and respect. In this video, you will learn 6 honest, profound, in places painful, but incredibly liberating pieces of advice from Carl Jung. You'll understand why kindness without boundaries is not dignity, but a path to self-destruction. Why your anger is not an enemy but a protector. Why trying to save everyone leads to losing yourself. And most importantly, you will learn how to find your inner wholeness, keeping your light, but no longer allowing anyone to manipulate it. Stay until the very end. Jung's last thought, which I'll share in the final video, has the power to change not only how you view yourself, but how the world will begin to view you. It shatters the illusion that millions of good people live in and gives you a new perspective that is mature, deep, and holistic. It's not just a philosophy. It is a path to inner freedom. If you've ever felt taken advantage of, that your kindness has become your weakness, you owe it to yourself to hear this. Subscribe now so you don't lose these reflections. And please watch to the end, I promise you won't be the same. Tip 1: Kindness without boundaries leads to self-destruction. Many of us were taught from childhood to be good. We were praised for being obedient, for being compliant, for wanting to help others even when we ourselves were struggling. As we grow up, we carry this pattern into our attitudes, into our families, into our jobs. We say yes when we want to say no. We stay silent when we are hurt. We help even when we're burned out inside. It seems to us that to be kind is to be always available, always ready to help, always giving in. But Carl Jung saw it differently. He said that he who doesn't know his shadow becomes its victim. And this fear to refuse, to put a boundary, is nothing but an escape from one's own shadow. When kindness becomes infinite, it ceases to be a virtue. It becomes self-destructive. People sense when you are ready to give your last, and unfortunately, they don't always return the favor. The world doesn't encourage those who erase themselves for the sake of others, it just uses them. It's harsh, but true. You become not a person, but a convenient resource, a functional, yes, automaton. You agree to stay longer at work to fill in for a colleague, you drive a relative to the other side of town even though you can barely stand on your own feet. And every time you betray yourself to be good in the eyes of others, you erase a piece of your own dignity. Jung argued that true goodness is impossible without boundaries. Because a boundary is not coldness, not indifference, but self-love. This is the honest answer, this is where I end. This is where my body, my peace, my time. People who respect themselves know how to say no, and they are respected by others. Surprisingly, when you say no, you are taken more seriously. You're listened to. Your yes starts to mean something. How do you change that? Start small. The next time someone asks you for something that triggers an internal protest, don't rush to say yes. Pause for a moment. Listen to yourself. Ask, do I want to do this? If the answer is no, say it out loud. Calmly, without anger, without long explanations. Just say, I'm sorry, I can't right now. It will be uncomfortable at first. But then you won't feel guilty, but strangely relieved. The air will feel cleaner, your back will straighten. That's the return to yourself. Jung said boundaries aren't cruelty. It's a way of maintaining your integrity. Remember, a kindness that has no boundaries is not strength. It is an open door through which everyone will walk in, leaving their dust on you. To close that door is to truly choose yourself for the first time. Tip 2. Embrace your anger, it is your strength, not your shame. Good people are taught from childhood, getting angry is bad. Anger is like something low, unacceptable, unworthy. You were told to be kinder, don't be angry, keep quiet, be smarter. And you've learned to suppress anger. You learn to swallow your resentments, to smile when everything is burning inside. But Carl Jung saw anger not as an enemy, but as a force. He said the shadow is not only evil, but also life energy. And anger is a signal. It shows you where you're hurting, where you've been betrayed, where you're not being heard, where your boundaries have been violated over and over again and you pretend everything is okay. Anger is your internal alarm clock that screams wake up, stepping on your soul again. But instead of getting up and defending yourself, you turn it off. You pretend everything is fine. And then you feel empty. Or shame. Or the resentment you've carried for years. Repressed anger doesn't go away. It goes inside. It rots, it builds up, it destroys. You become anxious, irritable, tired. Sometimes even sick, because your body speaks for you. Jung warned that if you don't accept your anger, it controls you from the shadows. It can break through at the most inopportune moment, in the form of a sudden outburst, a scream, a tantrum. Or, on the contrary, turn into a cold, hidden resentment, which makes you a passive victim. But anger, if you realize it, is a defense. It is an inner power. It's a voice that says, you can't do this to me. How do you use it? Start by allowing yourself to feel anger. Without judgment. Without fear. The next time someone says something derogatory to you, or acts unfairly, don't smile. Don't run away. Just tell yourself, I'm angry. And that's okay. You don't have to yell or confront right away. It's enough to acknowledge it. It gives you back control. And then think about what to do. Maybe you should just say, I don't like it. Or walk away. Or stop communicating altogether. But the decision has to come from strength, not fear. Jung wrote that what we accept ceases to control us. And that applies to anger to the fullest extent. Accepted anger doesn't destroy, it protects. It becomes your armor. Your right to a voice. Your choice to be yourself. So don't be afraid of it. Accept it as a part of you. It doesn't make you an evil person. It makes you a person who knows her worth. Tip 3. Stop saving everyone. It's not your responsibility. One of the most painful traps good people fall into is the role of savior. You see someone suffering and you rush to help. Even if you're not asked. Even if it's the 10th time. Even if it ends up again with you exhausted and the person you were rescuing just shrugs and disappears. You feel like you're doing the right thing, you're a kind person. But Carl Jung warned, in saving another, you may drown yourself. Behind the supposed kindness is often an unconscious need to be needed. It's not always about love, sometimes it's about the fear of being forgotten, rejected, not valued. So you start grabbing onto other people's dramas. Substitute. Pull. Pulling for two. You're drawn to where you need to help because otherwise you feel guilty. But you know what happens? The world quickly gets used to it. People stop seeing you as a person. They see you as a convenient donor, emotionally, physically, financially. And the more you give, the less you're valued. Because value is something that has a boundary. Something that is limited. If you're always around, if you're always solving other people's problems, you become the background. And no one notices the background. Jung called it the shadow trap. When you focus on other people's troubles, you avoid your own. You hide from your own issues, pain, emptiness, fatigue, and you fill them with other people's requests. It seems noble, but it's actually a way of not seeing yourself. And the world feels it. People start to abuse. And you lose yourself. What do we do? Learn to discern where your help is appropriate and where it is destructive. If a person complains about the same thing for years, but does nothing, he doesn't need your help. He needs attention. He needs a crutch. And you don't have to be that crutch. Ask yourself the question, do I really want to help, or am I being drawn there out of fear? And the other question is, what do I need right now? Maybe it's not help, maybe it's silence. Rest. Or self-care. Jung wrote, "He who does not save himself will save no one." That's not selfishness. It's maturity. Sometimes the kindest act is to step out of someone else's drama and get on with your own life. Because only by filling yourself up can you truly support another, without self-sacrifice, without resentment, without burnout. Remember, you don't have to be a perpetual tear vest. You don't have to listen to other people complain for 5 hours at a time. You don't have to pull people out who don't want to change themselves. Refusing to be a savior is the first step to being seen, respected, and taken seriously. Tip 4. Allow yourself to be imperfect. That is what makes you alive. Good people are often held hostage to an image. You try to be perfect, always polite, responsive, fair, balanced. A mistake is like a personal tragedy for you. Rude word, a reason for remorse. A manifestation of fatigue, as if you are letting the whole world down. But Carl Jung said, perfection is an illusion of the ego, not a path to wholeness. Striving to be flawless doesn't bring you closer to the light, it makes you dead from the inside out. Because you hide behind a mask. And masks are not loved. Masks are judged. They compare. Criticized. But never truly respected. People sense when you hide behind that artificial perfection. They sense the tension, the falseness, the fear. And that's what causes rejection. Because we're drawn to the living. Someone who can make mistakes, be tired, angry, cry. Who aren't afraid to be themselves. And you are. Afraid that if you show weakness, you'll be rejected. That if you say I can't, you'll be judged. That if you admit you can't do it, you'll be abandoned. But Jung taught that the way to wholeness is not through perfection, but through acceptance. Acceptance of your duality. You can be kind, but not always. Soft, but with a hardness inside. Light, but able to recognize your shadow. And that is what makes you real. It takes off the inner armor, opens the heart. And that's how true intimacy with others is born. How do you apply it? Start by stopping apologizing for being human. Tired of it? Admit it. Made a mistake? Say, yes, I made a mistake. And I will fix it. Don't hide your weaknesses. Don't make excuses for them. Just live with them. Because it's in imperfection that authenticity is revealed. And authenticity is a magnet. People are drawn to those who are honest. Because there's power in honesty. Jung called it individuation, the process in which a person stops being a role and becomes himself. He stops chasing the image and begins to build an inner core. He lets go of the ideal in order to find real, earthly, living power. And that power is attractive. It creates respect. It builds trust. Remember, the perfect are not loved. The perfect are feared. But the living are respected and valued. Let yourself be alive. Allow yourself to be yourself. This is the real path to respect, first for yourself, and then from the world. Tip 5. Sometimes you need to be bad to stay yourself. This is perhaps Carl Jung's darkest but also most liberating advice. We used to believe that kindness was our responsibility. That we need to be comfortable, patient, peaceful. That if you're a good person, you have an obligation to understand, to forgive, to yield. But Jung said, the shadow is not only what we hide, but also what makes us whole. Sometimes to keep your soul, your strength, your honesty, you have to dare to be bad in other people's eyes. What does that mean? It means not agreeing when you're expected to be silent. It means not smiling when you're humiliated. It means not compromising yourself for someone else's comfort. It means saying, I don't agree. I don't want it that way. I can't do that. The world is used to calling such people uncomfortable, selfish, cold. But really, they are people with boundaries. People with honor. People who don't give themselves up for approval. How many times have you kept silent to avoid conflict? How many times have you forgiven someone who didn't ask for forgiveness just to keep the relationship alive? How many times have you been angry at yourself for sagging again, for going along to get along again, for letting others decide how to live your life again? Jung warned that if you don't let your shadow out, it will come out on its own, in the form of resentment, exhaustion, or even self-loathing. Being bad in Jung's understanding is not anger or revenge. It is a mature attitude, I don't have to please everyone. I don't have to be comfortable. I have an obligation to be myself. Sometimes rejection is an act of self-love. Sometimes a harsh response is a way to maintain your integrity. Sometimes walking away is the only way to not lose yourself completely. What does this look like in practice? Imagine your coworker has been pushing their work onto you for years. You put up with it. You think, well, I'm kind, it's no big deal. But inside you grow irritation. Respect is diminishing. Recognition is nil. Now imagine that one day you calmly say no. This is your task. Without yelling. Without apologizing. Just the fact of the matter. Or the friend who only calls to complain, but is never interested in you. And you just stop answering. Not out of spite. It's out of self-respect. Jung called it shadow integration. It's when you don't kill your goodness, you put it on a solid foundation. You're no longer a victim. You are no longer someone who can be controlled through guilt. You are a person with boundaries, with a voice, with the right to say no. Remember, being bad doesn't mean being cruel. It means being real. It means being honest. It means finally starting to respect yourself. And that's where respect from others begins. Tip 6. Stop waiting for the approval of others. This is the path to inner freedom. Good people are often trapped in other people's expectations. You live your life in such a way that you don't disappoint anyone. You say what is pleasant to hear. You do what is expected of you. You smile when it hurts. Silently swallow resentment so as not to be inconvenienced. All for one thing: to be accepted. To be approved of. For someone to say you're good. But Carl Jung said that as long as you depend on the opinions of others, you don't belong to yourself. And he was right. Our hunger for approval makes us hostages. It's like we're living on someone else's leash, looking around every step of the way to see if we'll be judged. Will they reject us? Won't they think badly of us? You can be an adult, a successful, strong person, but internally you still feel like a little child, waiting for praise for every right behavior. This robs you of your freedom. It steals your authenticity. When you depend on external approval, you begin to betray yourself. You agree to the uncomfortable. Keeping silent when you should be speaking. Acting the right way instead of the way you want to act. And at some point, you find that you're not living your life. That you don't even know who you are, without other people's reactions, without other people's judgments. Jung taught that the mature personality doesn't seek validation of its worth. It knows it. She doesn't need applause to do the right thing. She doesn't sacrifice herself for likes, in real life or in her head. She acts from an inner pillar. How to change that? Start noticing which situations you make a decision in just because you're afraid of disapproval. For example, you agree to a meeting you don't want because you don't want to seem rude. Or continuing a relationship that has long been lacking warmth because you fear loneliness and judgment. Ask yourself the question, if no one was watching, what would I do? That will be your honest choice. Let it be uncomfortable. Even if someone doesn't like it. Even if someone moves away from you, it means that they were not with the real you, but with your mask. And if that mask is gone, let those who loved it be gone. The real you will remain. And they will respect you more. Jung said, true freedom comes when you no longer need other people's approval to be yourself. Remember this. Every time you go against yourself for the sake of other people's expectations, you lose a part of your soul. But every time you say to yourself, I don't have to be liked by everyone, you gain it back. Kindness is not a weakness. But kindness without boundaries, without support, without maturity can destroy you. Carl Jung showed us, to be only light is dangerous. Because light without darkness is blind. It blinds both itself and those around it. Only he who has accepted his shadow becomes truly strong. Only then does kindness turn from a victim into a choice. Only then do you begin to live your life and not the expectations of others. Embrace this path. Set boundaries so that you begin to be respected. Allow yourself to be angry so you no longer destroy yourself from the inside out. Stop saving everyone else to save yourself. Allow yourself to be wrong, to be tired, to be alive. Don't be afraid to be bad if it keeps you whole. And, most importantly, let go of your dependence on other people's approval. Because your true strength is not in being liked by everyone, but in staying yourself, even if you are misunderstood. Now think about where in your life has kindness turned into weakness. Where are you betraying yourself for a world that isn't worth it? Where you are silent when the voice inside screams, enough. Take the first step today. Write in the comments, which of Jung's 6 tips is closest to you. In which situation do you recognize yourself? Or maybe you've already started down this path and are ready to share your experience. I'll be sure to read every comment. Because that's where the real thing is born, in dialogue, in pain, in honesty. If this conversation resonated in your heart, put a like to support topics like this. Subscribe to me so you don't miss the next videos. There's more to come, for those who are tired of being good and are finally ready to be themselves.